Hey guys, welcome back to Previa Alliance. It's Sarah.
And Whitney.
Okay, so today's topic is going to be mom bod.
Oh, yay. Something we all love, right?
And when I say mom bod, everybody thinks different things. So what we're talking about here is maybe just reality of your body if you're becoming a mom.
How it has changed, how it will change.
Right. And after being a mom.
Yeah.
And
you could be 10 years postpartum and still feel like, oh, I've got a mom bod. Well, you do because you're a mom.
Yeah, you're a mom. So, and it's embracing that your body created life.
Yes.
And that's a process in itself.
It is. And even to our moms that have experienced infant loss, whether it be a miscarriage, stillborn, or IUFD, you may have heard that term used in the hospital as well. Or even, neonatal loss after baby is born and baby passes away. You can experience that mom bod stuff too because your body did change.
Oh, and I'm glad you hit on that. So I remember it was the first miscarriage at 13 weeks. And 13 weeks was, I was showing.
Mm-hmm. Hormones were already changing significantly.
And I looked that, is she pregnant? Is she not? For a long time after.
Yeah.
And then even going back to when I had Will so early, and I'll never forget this, and you're still looking very pregnant for a long time.
No one really prepares you that you're going to leave the hospital looking about 5 or 6 months pregnant.
And
you don't go back to a flat stomach immediately.
And I didn't have him with me. And so people would be like,
well,
what do you do? And that killed me.
Yeah, it's hard.
I was like, oh my God, I have a kid in the NICU. People still think I'm pregnant.
Talk about grief. So to our moms who have lost babies, you may hear us talking about this mom bod. It applies to you too.
And it's even harder. My heart goes out because I've experienced it in the sense of the miscarriage, but it's just the constant reminder that you don't have that child anymore, or that child's situation is not what you wanted.
Oh, correct.
If it's in the NICU, if it's medically challenged, and that your body's that reminder.
Yeah, and I've worked with women before who have experienced a miscarriage and they still leak. They still produce, colostrum or breast milk. And they're like, can my body not understand that this is no more? Because, it's one of those, they'll feel like, okay, I'm making progress in my grief. I don't feel as devastated as maybe I did 2 days ago or a week ago. And then something happens and they leak and they're like, great. Now I feel like I'm right back where I was.
I mean, I was still nauseous after both miscarriages.
Yeah.
And I remember even with our miscarriages, I had known that the heartbeat had stopped on ultrasound in my body. Your body doesn't recognize it. Sometimes they take a while. And I felt like such a prisoner trapped in my body. And I wanted my body to just be normal. And it wouldn't happen that way. So for our listeners who this resounds with you, our hearts go out because that is so tough. And I don't feel like people talk about it.
Agreed.
And you feel like, you're grieving, but it's like you also are just like, I don't want my body to be like this right now.
Correct.
And that's valid.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Who would want that?
No.
Nobody.
So what do you say to your clients who are like that? What could help them if they're in that section of like feeling like I've lost a child, my child's not with me, and like this is my body. Like how do you even like process that?
So realize it is going to be grief. We are going to have those physical reminders. I will say if it's one of those that you are leaking colostrum, breast milk, what have you, there are ways to dry up your supply.
Yeah.
There's the good old cabbage leaves.
Yeah.
Cold compresses, things of that nature. What I did to dry myself up is I would put those washable, reusable nursing pads. I'd stick them in the freezer and then put them in a sports bra and wear them that way. So it's a tighter compression. Something called peppermint essential oil can also help dry it up. That may help you feel like I can do something tangible. I can do something productive, something within your control.
Yeah.
Because not a lot of what has happened to them has been in their control. And so, if it's one of those you're leaking, it's a breast milk kind of thing, those are a few steps that you can do to dry up your supply that might make you feel a little bit better about that.
Right.
If it's more so that you feel like your stomach hasn't gone back to pre-baby status, maybe the weight that you did gain during your pregnancy, however long, it's not dropping as quickly as you would like it to, remind yourself that you are still postpartum.
Yeah.
Even though your postpartum is not the traditional appearance of it. You don't have the 6-week recovery at home with your newborn, things of that nature. You are still postpartum. Your hormones are still adjusting. So really try to normalize what you're experiencing.
Right.
And that it's appropriate for your body to still be in recovery mode.
Right.
Because regardless of a first trimester miscarriage, second or third trimester stillbirth, or even neonatal loss, or baby going to NICU because they were preterm, and you're like, I still look 6 months pregnant. And people in the elevator at the hospital are saying, hey, when are you due? And you're like, actually, my baby's in the NICU.
Or my baby was born sleeping,
or
whatever.
You fill in the blank.
And I think that goes back, and we've said this before, it's never okay to comment on someone's body.
No.
Don't ask if they're pregnant. None of that. Okay, so we'll turn the conversation.
Yeah.
So let's say we are just in, everything has went, we'll say, status quo.
Okay.
So now we're mom. We're newborn stage. Okay. I will never forget looking at myself post C-section with Will. Why they had a full-length mirror in this bathroom. Okay. I don't know. That was horrible. And Bill had to help me use the restroom because you can't really like move around well, right?
No. I mean, after any delivery, but especially a C-section and an emergent one at that.
I mean, I remember we had like my little pain pump. We had the little Foley bag at that time. It was like a whole situation. Yeah. And I stood up, and my stomach, because, it's used to having the baby in it. Felt like my organs were going to drop out of my body. But I looked at myself in the mirror, and I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even recognize her.
Yeah.
I mean, everything
was different.
And I was like, I don't want to look at it. And and I was just like, I burst into crying, and I still remember that, but it's like, that's an extreme version of how I felt. But there's definitely been moments where you're just like, I want my body back, or I don't want my boobs to sag right now. I have stretch marks now. I have a mommy pooch right now. And then you're in the shower and you see the clumps of hair.
And that lasts for so long, or mine did.
So long.
My hair loss lasted
and then
for months.
When you're growing it back out.
Oh yeah, the little wispy hairs.
The wispies, and like, if I have bangs, but even if they turn into like, Cabbage Patch doll hair.
I was about to say, I would just get the little flyaways. It was real fun. It was like a little cowlick, but only with a few hairs. But you could see them.
And I remember if you wear your hair up, it's like, good luck.
Yeah.
So it's like you have this whole other. So you're adjusting to motherhood. You're adjusting to your body. You're adjusting to new relationships now, because there's now
nothing is the same.
There's now a person, like if it's you and your partner. Now there's a third person, or even twins, fourth person.
Bless you if you are a multiple mama.
So you're doing all these adjustments, and you kind of, your body, in the beginning, you're like, okay, I can rationalize. I gave birth, whatever.
Yeah.
You start pushing it out a little bit. And then I feel like Instagram comes sneaking in, and you hear all the bounce back.
I hate bounce back culture. Can I just say that?
Yeah.
It preys on mamas at the most vulnerable time of their life.
Yeah.
When we are sleep deprived.
Oh my
we
gosh.
are physically hurting. Our hormones are all over the place.
Insane.
Oh, it's terrible. You know how they always tell you, like, if you're going into surgery, hey, don't make a big financial decision or anything like that until you're like 72 hours post-op because of anesthesia. Same thing with postpartum.
Same.
But these Instagram influencers, this bounce back culture will prey on that vulnerability. And because it is a vulnerable time, we're like, I do want to bounce back.
Yeah.
I do want my flatter stomach.
Well, for me too, it was like I had no control over anything. So I thought if I could control how I looked, that would fix me.
Yeah.
And like, I remember everybody does this, right? Like, even if it's just your friend or like an influencer or someone or celebrity, and you're like, do at the same time.
Yeah.
You self-consciously check in on that person, even if you don't know you're doing it.
Absolutely.
And you're like, oh, look at her. And it looks like she's in her jeans like she wore before she was pregnant. And look at me, I'm still pulling on my maternity pants.
Yeah.
Which, no shame, maternity pants, I wore them forever after pregnant.
Oh, absolutely.
Because, like, it's comfortable.
And also, shout out to Old Navy jeans that have some stretch.
Thank you.
Just saying.
So it's hard because you do that. Even if you don't know you're doing it, you do it. And especially celebrities, we got to just, like, map it out here. They have trainers. They have chefs. They probably have night nurses and nannies, and their whole job
all the things
is dependent on probably on how they look.
Oh, well, and not to like slam this show or these people, but we look at, you know, the female dancers on Dancing with the Stars who, you know, 6 weeks postpartum, it looks like they have their abs back already.
Yeah.
Well, for starters, that's kind of where their body was to begin with. That was their baseline,
and
their starting
some people
point.
do have those like crazy genetics where they are so fit and able.
Yeah.
And I've seen that.
Yeah.
And it's like, good for you, but that's not me.
That's not reality for, I would say, maybe 90% of the population.
So that's like a zebra of life.
Yeah.
Like, that's that unicorn right there. Which,
exactly.
Good for them. So.
But again, those people have auxiliary help.
Thank you.
That your average mama doesn't have. Because I don't know about you, but like, we're kind of paycheck to paycheck. Like, we are a 2-income household. I do not have the money to do a salary for a chef, a trainer, and a nanny. We don't have that kind of income.
No. And then if you go down to it as well, it's like pregnancy and postpartum, right? That is the second time us women have experienced body changes without our controls. If you go back to puberty, that's our first one. Did anybody enjoy puberty? No. So it's like we kind of forget, like, look how hard that was, and that was an adjustment for us. Pregnancy, postpartum is the same thing. We don't have really control.
We don't.
So we have to just, and one thing that kind of hit hard when I was prepping for this episode was, do we have our identity and how we look?
I think a lot of us do, because like I'm 36. So I feel like a lot of us millennials, we grew up in that 90s diet culture, in that early 2000s diet culture of Slim Fast and Dexatrin,
Weight Watchers,
and all of those things. So it was pushed on us to be a size 0, to be a size 2. Don't you dare be a size 6. That's not acceptable kind of thing. And so it was, I mean, really shoved down our throats from such an early age. And that's all we saw in the magazine covers.
Yeah.
There wasn't anyone like Lizzo.
No.
Who was, you know, a plus size woman who people loved. Yeah. And people respected, and people didn't body shame.
So we grew up in this is what you have to be.
Oh, absolutely. And so it was one of those, we didn't have anybody that was even average sized.
Yeah.
That was looked at, that was even respected. Not glorified, but just respected. So we're always kind of beat down of, well, should you really eat that cookie? Should you? You need to go work that off.
And
you
older
need to go
generations are still pretty hurtful of comments of like, oh, you know, touching. Like, I remember one of my family members touched my mom pooch. It was like, oh, you're working that off, aren't you? And it was like a comment like that. And I was just like, what? You know?
Oh, Aunt Brenda.
Yeah. And there's just like, you're supposed to be a mom who has your body back ASAP. You're supposed to be like on top of it at work, on top of it with your kids. Your relationship's supposed to be great. Yeah. You're supposed to be doing all this. But I feel like people comment on moms' bodies more than they should.
Inappropriately.
And I know I've had 2 C-sections and 2 miscarriages, both required D&Cs. So my lower abdominal area
has been traumatized.
It's probably never going to be what it was before kids. And I had some it was a friend one time, and she was talking to me, and it was about her stretch marks, and she said her son saw the stretch marks and said, "Mommy, are those your tiger stripes because you're so strong like a tiger?" And I'm like, "Yes, that is.
Absolutely, it is. We earn them.
We earn them." And so now, for a while, I think when I had my, I had to work through EMDR therapy, but I had a difficult time seeing my C-section scar.
Oh, I'm sure. That's not uncommon.
And it just constantly reminded me. But now I can look at it and be like, that brought my boys into life, and that saved our life.
Yes. Well, and the thing is, we really shouldn't have an expectation put on us, whether it's self-imposed or society imposed, for our bodies to go back to what they were pre-kids, because it won't, and it shouldn't.
And we're never going to be the same person we were before kids.
Exactly, and that's part of growth.
Yeah.
Because we go from not a mom to a mom.
Oh.
So we shouldn't go back to who we were 5 years ago, or, however long ago we are postpartum.
Right.
Because that's not how it is, and that's okay. We should, as hard as it is, embrace the new us. We are allowed to struggle.
Yes.
We are allowed to struggle. We are allowed to say, okay, I want to incorporate more exercise, or I want a more balanced variety of foods. That is fine. That is healthy. But we should really try to reframe or use grounding thoughts when we see ourselves in the mirror, pinching this, pinching that, being like, oh, I don't like my stretch marks here, or my boobs really could use a lift, or, fill in the blank, whatever we view as not what we want it to look like.
Yeah.
And that's okay. We're going to have those struggles. We're human. But that's when we reframe and say, okay, I don't love this part about my body. Appropriate. We can say that.
Yeah. I think
pre-kids, there were parts of my body I did not like.
100%.
But we can say, but you know what? I have this, and now I have my daughters.
Right.
I have these stretch marks, and now I have my daughters.
Yeah.
My boobs are flat because I breastfed my children.
Yeah.
It's one of those, yes, we're allowed to feel our feelings. Try not to dwell.
Right.
That's where we kind of tend to spiral and, intrusive thoughts and that whole rabbit hole.
Right.
But we can reframe and say, okay, I dislike this. However, this is the benefit that came from this sacrifice.
Yeah.
Because motherhood is a sacrifice.
Oh, it's the ultimate. And it, I remember someone told me, they're like, Sarah, it took 9, almost 10 months for you to grow this child. Why would you not think it would take that long or longer for your body?
Oh, yeah.
And your uterus alone takes like 6 weeks to get back to its normal shape.
If not longer.
If not longer.
One of my friends sent me a really cool image because I had texted her a picture after I had my second child, and I had just worn one of those t-shirt dresses, and I sent her a picture. I was like, it looks like I'm 12 weeks pregnant, but I'm not. And I was, I don't know, maybe a month postpartum.
Because you still look pregnant.
And she sent me this really great image or graphic that said, when you give birth, the wound in your uterus is the size of a dinner-sized paper plate.
Yeah, and it's
that is the size of a wound inside of one of our organs. It's not going to heal overnight.
And I will say, and I've told people this, they're like, how was your recovery from Will to James? And, Will, I saw in my uterus. James, he took that on out with him.
Yep.
And it was so much easier without my uterus. Now, my womb and everything started to go down, but like that uterus, and I felt like my body got back to better shape without the uterus. So that just showed me again, that uterus in there really.
Well, there's going to be inflammation.
It takes a bit. And then your periods, you're bleeding after for like a month or two. And then the first full period after, that's a whole nother thing.
Ooh.
So, I mean, we're not saying here that you can't say, I don't like my body after pregnancy. That's fine. We all have things that we don't like. That's normal. But don't get fixated that this is forever and this is who you are.
That it is also that the faults that you dislike or that you see is a definition of your character.
It does not. And like you said, when you're not sleeping, you're trying to figure out how you're even going to eat, sleep, function, go to the bathrooms and challenge some days.
Yeah.
And then if you have multiple kids.
Yeah.
It's a whole balancing act.
Here I am, five, nearly 6 years postpartum, and then 2 years postpartum. Literally yesterday, I was just trying to go pee, and both my children and the dog had to be in the bathroom with me.
I mean, how dare you try to pee in peace, Whitney?
I just needed 35 seconds, and that
Butter
was not allowed.
Butter's like, you're not doing that.
Oh, y'all just have to know, audience listening, we have a basset hound. Her name is Butter, and she's nearly earned herself a trip back to the breeder multiple times.
Butter is going to be the Previa Alliance like mascot, because Butter takes everything we say about self-care to heart.
To the next level.
So Butter,
she's all about some indulgence.
And that's what we want your mom to hear like now. It's like, listen, we get it, and it's okay. Hey, this my body after baby, I don't like it in this moment.
And that's okay.
I'm looking at myself in the mirror. I don't like myself. Okay, this sucks. My hair is falling out. My boobs are now saggy.
Yep.
I have this pouch. Okay. Say it. Voice journal it.
Yeah. Get it out.
Get it out. Don't hold that in. Don't try to pretend. Now,
be real.
And if you want to do something to help yourself, let's take it small and let's set realistic.
Yes.
If that's going, we always say go outside for a walk. Walks can fix a lot of things.
They really can.
That sunlight, that fresh air.
Even if it's around the block. It doesn't have to be an hour long.
But doing something physical will help you mentally.
Absolutely.
Throw the scale away if that's a fixation.
Absolutely, yes.
After James, I learned this the hard way as well. I took my pre-baby clothes. I packed them away.
Yep.
I was like, I don't want to see them. I know I'll get there.
At some point.
You know, if you have a special thing, you're like, I really want to feel good about myself.
Yeah.
There's a thing called Spanx.
Yes.
There's tricks and tips.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
Even getting up and getting dressed and like taking that time to take care of yourself will make your physical body just feel better, even if you've not like changed the way your boobs are hanging.
Exactly. I mean, for me, with both my children, I would put them in their bouncy seat or swing, and I'd pull them in the bathroom with me and take a shower that way. And you know what? Most of the time it worked out well. Sometimes they cried the whole time I showered, but it's not like I'm taking a 30-minute shower.
No. Those days are long gone.
Yeah. That does not exist.
What is that?
That does not exist. But, you know, I could see them.
Yeah.
And you know what? If they cry for 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, that's okay. I know that they're safe.
Yeah.
They may be upset or fussy, but it's okay that I also take care of myself.
And if that's too saying to your partner, to your children, and I do this now that especially with Will since he's older, if he wakes up earlier, he knows mom works out in the mornings. I do that not necessarily to change my mom bod. No. I do it for my mental health.
Absolutely.
And I know you run for you.
Yes.
And that's something for you. So making that time and saying, okay, it's walking, it's Pilates, it's going downstairs into our, and 10 minutes, mommy's going to do this workout online. You can have so much free on YouTube. There's ways to get it back.
Yeah.
So you're not always stuck in that.
But we don't have to rush.
But you don't have to rush. No one's in a marathon. No one's competing against you but yourself.
Correct. And here's the thing too, you also don't want to rush into exercise too quickly and hurt yourself.
And I did that with Will because I was all just like, I think my thing was I was so triggered because people are like, oh, how far along are you? Or when are you due? And, and I didn't have him.
Yeah.
So to me, it was like, I didn't want to face that. So for me, I was like, I have to not look pregnant.
Yeah, I can remember after my second one was born, I was, 3-4 weeks postpartum. And I just got on the treadmill and I just did a couple of miles jogging, not like full out run.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I feel so good. Let me tell you, the next morning when I woke up, literally my insides hurt. And I thought, oh, I did too much. I started bleeding
again. When I do too much, and that might be TMI, but it's like your body's like inside trying to heal, and it's like you've done too much.
Yeah, it's like, hey, pump the brakes, no more of that. And so that's when I realized, okay, I can't run yet.
Yeah,
I really shouldn't be able to, because we're not just healing from delivery; we are healing from 9 or 10 months of pregnancy,
which is
when our organs get smushed and moved
like
around.
A huge endurance race.
It really is. It's like the ultra marathon.
It really is. And then your hormones are coming to play. And so just realize, like, even if you're not suffering from postpartum depression or anxiety, you're still crashing with your hormones. And you're not looking at yourself with clear vision.
Yeah.
And now here's a whole other aspect is if your partner is supportive or not supportive of how you look.
Yeah.
And I think being honest with them, because let's say intimacy might not be something that you feel comfortable with.
Not for a hot minute.
Because you don't feel like yourself. So and it's like you're healing, and it's that 6-week thing is like.
That's not enough time.
So.
Just saying.
Having open conversations.
Yeah.
About that with them. That's never going to be a bad thing.
No. And here, let me throw this in there. If you have that conversation and say, okay, I don't feel ready for X, Y, and Z reasons, whether it is mental, physical, both, whatever it is, and you have that conversation with your significant other, and they come back at you with anger and defensiveness, that's a red flag.
Yeah, that's not what you need.
No. It's one of those, if they say, I understand, it's a hard thing to go through. Yeah, I'm a little disappointed that we got to pump the brakes. That's an appropriate reaction.
Yeah.
I can respect someone saying, I'm disappointed, but when it's anger, whole different ballgame. Yeah. Defensiveness, whole different ballgame.
And what would you advise them to do?
I would really start to figure out boundaries with them and figure out, is this a pattern of their behavior?
Or if this is just like, we're all kind of in this really confusing stage right now.
Because the newborn stage is hard.
On relationships.
Yes.
Very much. We've all,
it's hard.
It's hard because no one's feeling like themselves. It's a huge adjustment. So I think that's a very important part is like, look at, is this a one-time thing?
Yeah.
Versus is this like, you look back and you go, oh.
Wait a second.
This is
or you start paying attention and you see it more regularly. So I would almost keep track of that for a little bit so you can see if there is a pattern. Is this consistent? Or is it one of those, your baby was up all night screaming, nobody slept.
And we're all on our last straw.
Exactly.
Right.
So just being aware of what can contribute to having a short fuse, which everybody is, vulnerable to. Or is this a pattern? And we really can't identify an external trigger or component, things like that.
And I think that's a very important thing with a lot of relationships, not just this one, in a lot of situations. Is it a one-time thing or is it a pattern?
Yeah.
And that stuff, and you can put that into yourself. Is my thoughts, my negative thoughts about myself constant, or is it because it's like I'm in this situation?
Yeah. Or, the algorithm, they know how to target us with ads.
Oh,
they do. They know.
Faster, wait to fast, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then so don't also I guess back to the mom bod thing real quick before we wrap this up is don't expose, if you're struggling, unfollow people.
Oh, absolutely.
Don't watch the shows. Give yourself that I don't need to put that in my mind.
Guard yourself.
Guardrails. I'm not in the good space right now. I'm doing the best I can.
Yep.
And guess what? Mom bod can be empowering.
Heck yeah.
It can be the best body you've ever had.
Look what you've accomplished with it.
So we're proud of you. We wear our mom bods too.
That's right.
And we'll talk. I think this is a great subject. We can always talk more about it.
Absolutely.
But keep sending us your guys if you have questions, you want us to talk more. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram.
That's right.
We put a lot of good tips.
We're going to be a positive influence on Instagram.
Yes, we are. Not that negative.
Yeah, we're not preying on your vulnerabilities.
No.
Just throwing that out there.
All right, guys. Till next time.
All right. See ya.